welcome back to BIM Rules of Engagement. And this week we're looking at how do we do away with this closed office door policy, or maybe create a more open office plan environment within a company. And I thoroughly enjoyed this rule that's delivered by Brittanie Campbell-Turner on doing away with closed office door environments. Now, I personally have to admit, I'm not a fan of this open plan office. And ever since starting out my career as a quantity surveyor, I've always coveted my office and called it my own. If nothing less, it's probably been a psychological perception of being one door closer to being the CEO one day. It was my think tank, or maybe my measuring man cave as a quantity surveyor. And unfortunately for me, I spent most of my career as a QS in the era of construction where I was always behind partitioned office spaces, maybe within a parking basement of a refurbished building, or a stuffy hot container on site, probably most accurately describes my workspace. Now, of course, remember the construction sector in particular, not everyone is relegated to mingle with what I call the white hard hat workforce on site. Remember, someone has to be back in the office, and that designer or the administrator has probably their own desk, their own computer station, and might be even lucky enough to have two screens. So if you are that person, or maybe that manager of the team, and you're in that closed office, and maybe you have a door, take some time to consider next time you sit down and stare at those four walls of your office, remind yourself you're still working in a traditional work style environment. And that's not how the new world of collaborative BIM works. Remember, most contractors will probably tell you, you still need to come to site to see how it works and how it's installed. Chances are you're probably on the other side of the world, and depending on your position, you don't get to go to site. You're still working in a siloed environment, and you're still going to continue to receive and send emails, maybe have those virtual site meetings. And someone probably in your management or even on the site will tell you, please have a fax machine in your office so we can connect with you. Now, in spite of my contempt for an open plan floor office, I can't deny the benefits to the constant flow of information that usually occurs when everyone in your team needs to be within an earshot or eyesight of what's happening on that project. And things can move very quickly. Now, as a quantity surveyor, you probably find the office layout as well as the professional work style might be a little bit different because you might need that quiet time to do that measuring. Albeit, remember, today, many new age professionals or consultants will tell you that the new way of working has to be an open desk policy. Now, if you are the manager and you're expected to lead a team or maybe mentor them or manage the project team itself, you need to have access to information quickly. And remember, it's not just all about information management. You cannot provide leadership behind solid walls. And in a world where we see these digital models now seen only on screens, and the data is actually hidden within the properties of the application, things now become pretty tough to accomplish when you cannot see what the team is working on. And it is essential to understand the quality as well as the guidance that is involved within a project. Now, Brittanie Campbell-Turner is a built environment integrator, blockchain advocate, as well as a BIM enthusiast. Now, Brittanie's been servicing the AEC industry for more than 14 years and now specializes in project control and schedule management systems, and currently leads a project management team with the American Family Insurance Company. And she understands all too well what it means to have the challenges around an open office environment.
Hi, I'm Brittanie Campbell-Turner. I'm the CEO and founder of Constructor. With a focus on workplace innovation, I'm also the manager of construction at American Family Insurance. I serve also as a steering committee member in the USA Alliance of the Construction Blockchain Consortium, and have contributed most recently to a white paper about how blockchain might help procurement and cash flow. My educational background is in architectural engineering and construction management. So, today we're going to be talking about getting rid of the office with a closed door. Now, I recently joined American family in a management role and was told prior to my arrival that I would be getting an office. While I was flattered, I ultimately decided not to use my office as my primary workplace. So I did this for 3 reasons. For most of my career, I've not seen any of my leaders have a personal office. And as a result, I've had an extremely good relationship with them. Also, in my prior role as an owner's representative consultant, I've delivered many workplaces to my clients where they've made an intentional shift to reducing the number of personal offices because they wanted to drive more of a collaborative culture. And I wanted to do the same. I personally wanted to be close to my team in order to build connectedness with them. I was moving from one state to the next, and the last thing I wanted to do was put up a physical barrier to get to know them and for them to get to know me. So some benefits came about as a result. That space was made available to all my team members when they needed to physically huddle or collaborate impromptu. We called this room our construction lab. There was shared ownership of the space, so there was a culture of collaboration. Now, prior to the space being opened up to my team, they had limited ways of meeting in a hybrid setting. Now they were able to do that. So doors, they do a couple of things. A door can provide privacy, visual or audio barriers, and they can indicate whether a passageway is open or closed. But we're not here to talk about doors, frames, and hardware. We talk about that a lot in construction. But after all, we're here to talk about BIM. And I'd like to reference a guest I interviewed for my podcast, the Constructor Podcast, a pioneer in BIM, Kimon Anuma. He demonstrated BIM benefits on numerous large USA government projects in 1994, and he was one of the first to recognize the need for collaboration on the web and doing so long distance. He started doing this because of a personal need he had for his very own project when he was traveling from the US to Japan, and he was unable to work on the model while he was traveling. But he also wanted his colleagues to make updates and for them to be updated upon his arrival. Years later, in 2008, he started hosting something called BIM Storms, experimenting how to use the web and collaborate long distance among designers, starting with planning exercises. So he developed a way to share projects, designs that we planned for so that even thousands of people can learn from each other in this BIM storm conversation, even if the design outcomes were ultimately private. He had over 40 BIM storms since then. And these BIM storms are multi-hour global events that can extend up to a month in duration at all hours of the day. Now, he called out a major problem that we're facing when it comes to an open door mentality regarding BIM data. And I agree with it. So I'll paraphrase his comment. We have built businesses around inefficiencies and contracts constrained by the tools that we used to use. Assumptions of how much time it takes to create documents used to be systematic, simply because we had to use blueprints. Now, that approach is now irrelevant because BIM is a tool to capture knowledge and data from the minds of contributors, not limited to designers on the project. We had that conversation in 2018, and today the demand for transparency is higher than ever. Currently, we have a pandemic that precludes us from collaborating in person and even in the same offices. Even after the pandemic is over, we're going to be working in a hybrid way where we need to share updates and approve them real time in a global market. It's important for transparency and security to be used wisely in order for an open door approach to be successful. And that is why I have these 3 recommendations. Number 1, create a project charter and include the necessary stakeholders, anyone that has vested interest in the project in order to build this project charter. The project charter is meant to clearly define what makes the project successful. Number 2, find the right people to build a transparent design foundation technically, not only to be transparent within your design teams, but with those stakeholders who contributed to the project charter. They're the ones who are ultimately going to sign off on the work and make sure that those designs will meet their ultimate goals. Now, as an owner, I don't know how to do this with Autodesk products today, but as a BIM leader, you can ensure you hire individuals internally on your project that set your project up this way. Number 3, populate a BIM execution plan that includes not only technical components like level of information that's needed for a successful design, but what I want to get across to you is that you should establish a real design schedule that's not based in tradition, but that meets your needs of the project. Now, traditional design processes, they're the days of the past. Talking about schematic design development, your 30, 60, 90% construction documents, those days are over. As a part of your BIM execution plan, you should be using last planner techniques around not only construction, but design. In my experience, I found that it is critical to take into account last planner techniques in design. Oftentimes, we talk about last planner pooling sessions in construction where your last planners or your foremen, they go backwards from the last activity and they find their critical path for physical work. But you can do this with design. Oftentimes this is not done in design. It's not a thought about this way, but it should be. And few understand what design packaging components need to be completed in order for construction start to be successful and to drive that critical path and implementation. But you can do the same pool planning process for design components and integrations. As an example, you should prioritize completing construction documents for your critical path mechanical room that will have redundancies and ties to building automation systems before you complete your design development documents for your workplace interiors. Prioritize the complex and what needs to be built first. In order to keep the door open, you should establish that governance process in your BIM execution plan. So not only your schedule, but document the expected flow of communication. Make clear the conditions of satisfaction before components are ready for others to review and work on. During the project, ensure those conditions of satisfaction are being met. This will create a trust loop. In conclusion, with these recommendations, establishing a project charter, making sure you have technically sound BIM practitioners, and setting up a culture of trust with a realistic schedule, you will have a way to find the same benefits that my team found with our construction lab. You can huddle or collaborate impromptu around design components. You will have a culture of collaboration, and you will be limitless in your opportunities to work in the way that you need real time. With that, if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn at Brittanie CT, or you can email me at Brittanie, BRITTANIE, at constructrr.com.